Hello, intro A and P. We have Friday, April 3rd here, going over some notes before spring break. A few just quick things about spring break. Although there's not much we can go do over a spring break right now. I at least for sure am taking a break from school. So, you are more than welcome to get caught up on assignments and homework if you need to over spring break, but I am not going to be available to answer emails or on Remind. I won't be obviously posting any homework assignments or anything like that. If you are behind, you're welcome to work on any missing work. I just won't look at it or grade it at all. If you message me, that's great. I just probably won't reply till Monday we get back. Anyways, I hope you guys are doing well. The other thing is we don't know yet. We're going into spring break here with our technical last day of virtual learning, but it's very possible that the governor will extend our school closure deadline. So I hope I get to see you on the 13th after spring break in person. Oh, that would be the dream. But in case I don't, we're going to continue business as usual. I will probably use Monday as sort of a kind of basic catch-up day. I'll probably actually have you guys work on accessing your emails and send me an email on Monday. That's kind of my expected assignment for you. You guys have emails, by the way. So we are going to talk about glial cells today, and I have Norman with me. Hi, Norm. He is a very good boy and an old boy. Well, they're all old, actually, but he looks the oldest. Don't tell the others, but he's my favorite. Mostly because he likes me way more than my husband, and he was my husband's dog, so it makes me feel really loved. Anyways, we are talking today glial cells. So our first day of notes, we talked about the neuron, okay, the structure of the neuron, and it is the main cell of our nervous system. It is what sends signals and conducts messages. When we think of the nervous system, we usually think of the neuron, but we have all these other important cells that are support cells. So if you go to page 2, okay, of your notes packet, you have this very similar structure here to label. And so I want you, first of all, to write the name of each of these different types of cells in and next to the pictures. You can box them or underline them or bubble them or whatever you want to do. And we're going to go through a few details and label these little label markers and describe their functions for today. So we have astrocytes, microglia, epididymal cells, oligodendrocytes, and I put an exclamation point because I love that word, oligodendrocytes, and then the satellite and Schwann cells. All right. So the you probably want to do also while you're working on labeling these is at the very top of your page here of notes, like just at the top, okay, right, Microglia cells. These are, just so you know, that's what these are. Whereas this page was your neuron, and hopefully you labeled that neuron, just so you know the difference. So these are all considered support cells of the nervous system. So they don't send the signal, but they assist the neuron or assist the brain or spinal cord in some form or fashion. So they all have important extra duty jobs. So we're going to go through each of them in a few extra details. So let's first talk about astrocytes. I want you to add these labels and extra things on here. So the first thing is astrocytes help end up forming what's called the blood-brain barrier. And I'll talk about that more later, but your blood-brain barrier is super important at protecting, okay? Protecting things from getting into your brain. Your brain is so important. We can't just let any old thing come in and damage your very important tissues of your brain. So these are the protective guys, right? They're the most abundant of the central nervous system. They're there to support the neurons. So the yellow guy here in the background, like that's just like looking at a tiny piece of a neuron. So like if I just gave you a little shot like of just like, you're just a little guy of a neuron there, that's what we're peeking through here. So neurons are so busy sending signals constantly all day long that they don't eat. It's like they forget to eat or forget to feed themselves. So the astrocyte's job is to support the neuron. And if you notice here, we've got the blood capillaries because we've got blood flow in our brain through capillaries. And they're wrapping around the capillaries and then they're wrapping around the neuron, the dendrites of the neuron. Here's kind of my cell body. And basically they are checking out what's passing through. This is where the blood-brain barrier comes in. It's making sure everything is good to go. And then it's passing on essentially that food to the neuron. So it's like a person that's just like working so hard that they never take a pause to eat. And so it'd be like someone else bringing them a lunch and be like, dude, you've been at this for like hours. You need to take a break. Here's some water and food. And they're like, oh, I'm going to keep working. So the astrocytes are there to support the neurons. That's their job. And they form part of the blood-brain barrier, which we'll talk about later. Right? And so astro as in star, it kind of has a star-like shape to it, sort of like a hand almost. And so that always helps me remember those are the astrocytes. All right, microglia. These guys are phagocytic. And to be phagocytic, to phagocytize something means to eat it or engulf it. So they are defensive cells of your central nervous system, protecting your neurons from anything suspicious, any bacteria, virus, or anything like that. They're these extra protection, like bodyguards of your nervous system. So the microglia are the protectors, okay? The protectors. So they're phagocytic, defensive cells of the central nervous system. I want you to write that down. And then this guy's the neuron, and here's my microglia cell. All right. Then we've got the epididymal cells. Kind of sounds like epidermis because it covers. So your brain is surrounded by fluid, and that fluid is called cerebrospinal fluid. So it's written right here, cerebrospinal fluid. We abbreviate it though as CSF, cerebrospinal fluid. Epididymal cells don't make cerebrospinal fluid. I made a note here. It's made by the choroid plexus, but they do circulate it. So if you notice here, these cells here have cilia, these little finger-like projections, and they essentially like wiggle and wave all along, essentially around your brain and your ventricles in your brain, which we'll talk about later, where you have cerebrospinal fluid, and they just keep everything flowing. So think of like the wave pool or something. They're going to keep things passing and moving through. So if this was the brain or the spinal cord, epididymal cells line it, and those little cilia help circulate cerebrospinal fluid. Epididymal cells. Okay, my favorite one, oligodendrocytes, mostly because the name is really fun to say. Oligodendrocytes. It's like, I don't know, if Mrs. Lloyd had a school and I got to pick the mascot, I think I would pick oligodendrocytes to be the mascot because like, go oligodendrocytes. Just me? Okay, yeah. So we have here these guys. I want you to write this down underneath your picture. They form the myelin sheath and then add this in and around the CNS. Remember, CNS stands for central nervous system. So this is my brain and spinal cord. So they basically are doing the same job as the Schwann cells do for our neurons, okay? Making those protective insulation. Remember, that's what myelin does. It's like insulation for the myelin. And so here's like the nucleus of my oligodendrocyte, and it has these little extensions, and then it's covering these nerve fibers, and it forms myelin, these wrapped sort of insulators that go around our cells. Oligodendrocytes, my favorite one. Everything we've talked about so far was all in the central nervous system. Okay, so brain and spinal cord. This next one is the only one in the peripheral nervous system. Okay, and there's two cells pictured here, the satellite cells and the Schwann cells. Schwann cells we already talked about. They form myelin sheath. Okay, and then the satellite cells essentially wrap and protect the cell body of the neuron. These are going to be in those unipolar neurons that are really prominent in our sensory nerves. And so they are basically protective cells for that, kind of like what astrocytes do for the central nervous system, satellite cells do for the peripheral nervous system. So notice it says P and S here. But the Schwann cells make the myelin, and then the satellite cells help support those. So I want you to kind of somehow either like draw a circle in a line or like a box to separate off to show that these two cells are the only ones that are in the peripheral nervous system, the P and S. All of the other ones that you just wrote down, those are all in the central nervous system. You can label that if you want, or just know that if this is in one, the rest are in the other. But that'll be a question on your homework assignment. Okay. So just to kind of give you like the full view of everything here, make myself tiny. Okay, this is hopefully what you guys have written down all here on one page for you after we went over that. But I want you to finish that homework assignment. You'll see these questions again, very likely on the test. And so that's why we're doing a little bit of a time here. So anyways, let me know if you have any questions. I've posted a Zoom meeting just for some FaceTime with you guys today, if you're watching this on Friday at 1:30. It's not required, just a nice little check-in. You can ask questions. You can see some of your peers. Might be a little nice uplifting thing right before we go into spring break. So from me and Norm, we say, go oligodendrocytes. Thanks for tolerating me, guys. See you.